Hello, everybody. This is Joseph Farrell with news and views from the Nefarium on Thursday, December 10th, 2015. The year's almost over, and man, where did it go? And a couple of quick announcements here before I get to today's news and views. There are a couple of new webinars up in the members area by request from members to talk about certain things. I also want to extend my thanks to all of you out there from Europe, that dear lady, you know who you are, our new members in the Pacific for making this a very good year. There's some new features up on the website, so we hope you all enjoy them. All right, now let's get to today's news and views by way of painting a context in which I want you to listen to this short and very disturbing article. Uh, Over the last few months, we've seen the Russian intervention in Syria. This has brought intensified conflict with Turkey. And in fact, some of my friends tell me that they know Turks, and Turks themselves are very worried that what is really happening here is that Erdogan is being set up for a fall. He's being set up for an internal coup, which many Turks are in favor of. They don't like Erdogan. They don't like the way he's taken the country. So there's this working in the background. I've even seen an article to this effect, that Erdogan might be being set up for a fall by his so-called NATO buddies. Whether that's true or not, time will tell. We've seen, in addition to this, we've seen the shoot down of the Russian airliner. We've seen the shoot down of the Russian fighter aircraft. And in both cases, Russia is sticking with its story that these are terrorist acts. The Russian military jet was nowhere inside Turkey's borders. Now, this has been followed up recently by Iran saying much the same thing and apparently willing to provide its own independent intelligence verifying the fact that the Russian military jet was not inside Turkish airspace. And in the backdrop of all of this, of course, we have the long-standing traditional Sunni Shia internal warfare within Islamic culture. And this has brought into the picture Saudi Arabia. Now, we all know that the new Saudi king, Salman, and his son, Prince Salman, are behind massive moves to intervene all over the Middle East, in Qatar, their fellow Wahhabis in Qatar, Kuwait, and Yemen. And we know that there have been Saudi connections to the training and fielding of terrorist activities throughout the Middle East and elsewhere. And in fact, Salman, I'm going to be perhaps talking about this in upcoming blogs. Salman and his son have been in the center of that activity for quite some time. And I've been suggesting that Saudi Arabia is on the menu, and there are some strange noises, so to speak, coming out of Germany in the past week that I will be blogging about. But basically, Germany is signaling to Saudi Arabia that the party is over, but at the same time, Germany is not willing to share intelligence with the Russians, is not willing to cooperate with the Franco-Russian uh, coup and coalition, pardon me, the coalition that they have in Syria, because Germany is not willing to deal with Assad. So in that respect, Germany is still towing the party line coming out of Washington, and I suspect that the days for that are not very long. Now, it's against this total backdrop that I want to read the following article to you from Russia Today. This appeared just yesterday, I believe. It's being reported by Alexei Nikolsky, who originally ran this story on Russia's Sputnik. This was reported just yesterday, and I've been getting various versions of this story from different people. And this is very significant. Listen carefully, I'm going to read the entire article. Quote, Vladimir Putin has praised the Russian cruise missiles fired against terrorists in Syria from the sea. He expressed hope that these weapons would not have to be armed with nuclear warheads. Meeting in the Kremlin with Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, who reported the latest results of the anti-Islamic State operations in Syria, the Russian president made a notable remark. Quote, "We must analyze everything happening on the battlefield, how the weapons operate." Now, that's an interesting phrase right there. Russia is, and Mr. Putin is signaling to a certain extent that they're testing weapons systems, all right? Putin continued, "The Calibers, or sea-based cruise missiles, pardon me, and the KH-101 airborne cruise missile have proved to be modern and highly effective, and now we know it for sure. Precision weapons that can be equipped with both conventional and special warheads, which are nuclear," unquote, Putin said. "Naturally," he continued, "this is not necessary when fighting terrorists, and I hope will never be needed," unquote, the president added. On Tuesday, a Russian Kilo-class submarine, the Rostov-on-Don, fired Caliber PL cruise missiles against an ISIS installation near the terrorist stronghold in Raqqa. Water-to-surface cruise missiles were launched from a submerged submarine in the Mediterranean Sea, according to the Russian defense minister. "We've been registering the missile launches, flights, and of course they're hitting the targets," Shoigu said. "We warned our Israeli and American colleagues about these launches." Caliber and KH-101 cruise missiles have been deployed for the first time this year in Russia's counter-terrorist operation in Syria, unquote. Now, that is a significant escalation to be using cruise missiles. We've seen the Russians use them already, but submarine-launched cruise missiles in the area. And Putin's remark about hoping that he would never have to use nuclear weapons in this area. I think, quite frankly, my friends, this is a huge signal to Saudi Arabia. Because as you know, I've been thinking that we're perhaps watching a sea change slowly take place. Because as gradually news increasingly comes out about Saudi Arabia's backing of terrorist groups in the Middle East and in other countries, as news about this comes out, we're watching the Russians gradually keep escalating the amount of information that they're putting out about the structure of ISIS and its funding. So, in other words, what I'm telling you is so far the story that they've been putting out has only concerned Erdogan and Turkey, but that money flow ultimately is going to track back in part to Riyadh. And this, I suspect, is what ultimately is the game here. Saudi Arabia is on the menu, and the Russians just told them that they're on the menu, and there is no way that Saudi Arabia can resist a potential Russian nuclear strike. And Putin's signaling something else, if I'm reading all of this correctly. He's signaling to the West how very seriously he views the situation. So, in other words, that should tell you right there that the concern simply isn't about ISIS alone. It's about Saudi expansion via terrorist networks. And I will be hopefully blogging more about this in the coming week. But this is a huge story, folks. This is something to watch very carefully. Remarks like this do not get made in private correspondence and conversation between the Russian president and his defense minister and then get reported publicly in the Russian media. So this is clearly a message. And I don't think that ultimately the target of this message is the West. It's a warning to the West of how seriously he's taking the situation now. But it is a direct warning to Saudi Arabia because let's remember Iran is involved as a backer of Russia's actions in Syria. So this is an old Shia Sunni conflict with great power backing behind it. What remains to be seen is whether or not the West is going to continue backing this hideous regime in Riyadh. Now, I suspect that we're going to be seeing some signals, more signals coming out of Europe in this regard. So, Stay tuned, watch the blogs on the website. I'm planning to blog about this story a little more in the coming weeks. I also want to make one final announcement. I am going to be blogging the rest of the month, pre-scheduling blogs for the rest of the month on into the holiday season. So I will keep my news and views going, but I do want to let everybody know that I'm going to be kind of taking a little holiday vacation. So that's it for the news and views this week. An interesting analysis of the big picture and some very interesting remarks by President Putin. So stay tuned, everybody. I'll see you on the flip side, and God bless.